I did. Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, perfect.
I did my ceremonial run from the closet to my computer, and then I'm wearing socks, and I just slide and almost fall every time I get to the.
Do you have to
Jesus
clear a
Christ.
path on your way over? Like, before
Just
do you have to plan it out?
have the fucking Amazon stop. What did I say?
Hey,
What did I say that keyed up Jeff Bezos's fucking soul living inside of one of these Amazon pucks?
yeah,
Jesus.
dude.
Okay, sorry. Welcome to the I don't know what number LLamas Graze, and today we're doing a kind of a weird show, a special show. We're doing it as a recording only, and it's just me and Darien on the AIOZ Discord that we're running, and we're just going to talk about. This is not necessarily a llama. Well, I guess it is kind of a llama thing, considering we have our own lounge now, and we're doing badges in the llamas. But um, it's mostly going to be talking about AIOZ and intro to the DEPIN network that me and Darien are both working for part-time-ish and running. We're not working for AIOZ specifically, but we're just running a Discord for them indirectly. The unofficial AIOZ Discord launch point for the DEPIN network that Ermin's running. And also, I wanted to talk to Darien about his trip to Consensus, and just wanted to give you a little connection to the llamas, and we can probably start that at the beginning. Thank you for coming on, Darien, and I'll just start off with the connection to llamas, so the people that are listening to this from the llama side immediately know how there's a connection. So sorry, I'll let you say something, so it's not just me talking for the first 20 minutes.
No, it's good. It's good. It's fun listening.
Oh, good. You haven't heard my voice enough in your life. Just why don't you just talk for the whole time? Thanks for having me on the show. Have a good one. Fucking bye. So we started. I've got a budget of what we can spend on badges, and I opened up an AIOZ lounge inside the Llamas Discord. We ran a couple of one announcements in the badges in production channel inside the Llamas Discord. So if you have a llama and you're authenticated, or you've connected your llama with Collabland, and you're in the Llamas gated channels, you can see that we dropped a writer's threader badge. So it's kind of going to be an ongoing badge where I'm going to pick a few llamas a month to write a Twitter thread about AIOZ. And so that it requires that they come into the Discord, the AIOZ Discord, which is discord.gg/AIOZ, and they learn about AIOZ. They then write a thread about it, but I want the information about this project to be coming from somebody other than just me and Darien. So I would like to bring in other llamas, expand the reach, have them talk about it on their Twitter, and hopefully we can get some new eyeballs in to hear about this project that both me and Darien are pretty passionate about, and we think it really has some legs in it, and it's it's exciting. It's an exciting point right now for DEPIN. So that being said, now you know why we're doing an AIOZ call on the LLamas Graze, and I've hijacked my own show to talk about a different project, but there's definitely a connection. So, with that being said, this is Darien, and him and I have been friends since elementary school. We went to elementary school, junior high, high school, and college together. Neither of us graduated college. Hell, we didn't even graduate junior college. We barely made it through. We barely made it through our intro to college algebra. And then now, we have, it's 20 something years later, and Darien has decided that it's time to go back to school. So that's another life story that he can tell us about. But I'll start out with saying, letting you introduce yourself, Darien, and talk about what mostly what your journey in crypto has been. That's how I usually start the show with guests: is how did you get into it? What's your interest? And what do you like about it, or what do you hate about it, or do you think it's all fucking vaporware?
I gotcha. Okay. Hey, Cogsy. Good to hear your voice again. All right. So I got out of high school and kind of explored the world for different options of where I can place myself and tried a bunch of different things unsuccessfully, which is good. It's good that I tried and got out. But instead of going to college properly and fully, I decided to live the life of a person in the world, getting jobs, exploring. I've lived in God knows how many different states, different cultures, and my purpose primarily was to discover what it was that people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, what kind of challenges that they run across in their lives, and what potential solutions there are. I mean, that was the driving force for most of my life, is finding a solution for the shit heap that we call civilian life. And I happened upon several different possibilities, but they required so much discipline that it wouldn't have been feasible to bring that to the wider public and hope for its adoption. When I heard about crypto, the concept of it, of bringing people's ownership of their value back directly into their hands, it immediately slipped in with my wider purpose of life. That is a tool, or at least the philosophy of it is a tool that we need. We need ownership so that we aren't fully dependent on those who have the leverage of our survival. So that's how I got involved in it. And you really were the introducing factor of crypto to me. I didn't know much about it, and then you got so deep into it.
The ownership concept didn't click for me until like I'd say like a few months in. Like in the Bitcoin days in 13 or 14 or whatever, our initial draw was there's only 21 million Bitcoin and it's digital gold. Like the most boring argument now, right, is that, or the most boring onboarding way to crypto pill somebody is the fixed supply of Bitcoin. But
so what was it that drew you into it? Like initially, what was the value of it initially?
I thought the scarcity concept was, I thought it was digital gold. I thought it was digital gold, but better, because gold always finds a way to come to market like that.
Yeah, indeed.
You have new mining techniques. You have the resale market which is massive. Like every time gold
reclamation.
Oh my God, there's so much that comes to market. Like it just comes out of the fucking woodwork at all these like pawn shops.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then like recycling.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that Bitcoin had a better, even better pitch than gold for the fixed supply concept. But what really made me figure out the power of the self-custody thing was when we changed from Coinbase to ledgers, and I thought, oh, I actually own this now. I'm not trusting, the San Francisco fucking startup to hold my money for me, or a bank, because basically you can look at Coinbase and just say they're a crypto bank. I'm carrying the keys to this token on a ledger.
Had you ever had that before, besides, cash in the mattress? Had you ever had that level of ownership?
Never even considered it. Didn't even think it existed.
God, we are so screwed.
We would be slaves. I thought we would be slaves to banks forever.
Right.
So that ties into the bigger scheme of, once you realize that you can own your money, then you have ETH come out and you realize that you can program your money.
Yes.
Which is very exciting. And then now you have DEPIN, where you realize that you can actually own your intellectual property.
Jesus.
I've never really seen that pitch, like, of all the conventions that we've been to together, or that we've been to, I've never heard that connection of saying ownership of money, programmable money, ownership of your information, of your intellectual property. It always goes back to World of Warcraft for me. which is funny because that's like the joke, the meme about Vitalik started ETH because he was pissed off that Blizzard had nerfed his Warlock, and he wanted that was like his rage outlet was to go create ETH.
You
For
never
me,
know. You never
that's
know
supposedly the
what's
story.
going to cause it.
He says that that's true. So when I'm mad that I have a 17 or 18-year-old character that I don't actually own, that I put all this time and effort into, and if I was to sell that account, I have to do it on the dark web and risk getting banned, right? So I put all this time and work into this into my WoW character, but I don't actually own it. So that the idea of having like on-chain gaming was always exciting to me because you could actually own your in-game property. Now
I never considered that.
That whole concept is crashed and burned. You don't even need to bother looking into it. On-chain gaming is dead. So
no. Okay. For now, man.
It'll be
I've
back
got a
in the next
transcript
cycle,
on this.
in the 2027 cycle.
No, if it's inevitable. Humans are game players, and if we have the infrastructure that allows for these things to emerge, all these things that we're dabbling in, I mean, they're just. If you ever tried, I was going to say, if you ever tried making a fire in wet conditions, that's funny. If so, you have multiple attempts until you get the structure right, until you get the the ignition source, the accelerant, the structure of the tinder, and all that. You try several times until you really get it down, and the gamers will always be there. They will always be there. They will always want more games, and if you give them something not just where they own their in-game assets, but they can make money off of it, are you kidding? You think they're not going to jump to that? Especially first-person shooters. Can you imagine like a Rainbow Six with like actual valuable assets in game? Are you joking?
In-game skin sales is a multi-billion-dollar
It's
industry
ridiculous.
today,
Indeed.
and legal. I mean, it's all sold on Steam or whatever their
It's like Black Mirror.
is. But I think
it's like that Black Mirror 10,000 tokens episode. Working to buy avatars so that you can, work and look cool on your little, electro bike generating electricity for the complex. It's that now.
But imagine if you don't have the middleman taking a 70% cut of your skin sales.
Oh, that's so dangerous. I love it.
So sorry, I went off the rails and from your intro, but you asked the question what excited me about crypto. Both me and Darien come from a gaming background, so I guess that makes sense that we played Counter-Strike in the old days. We played like in the 90s. I don't want to really date ourselves, but we played like ladder, like CPL ladder, like we played
in internet cafes for tournaments because we didn't have the connection.
We didn't have a computer or connection that could run CS. So all of the original Bitcoin miners in the original Bitcoin like enthusiasts were almost all gamers. So we have a huge connection of the gaming community into the crypto community, and it continues to this day. Now, I want to ask you about those early days when you were living in the South, and you and your office mates were running a Bitcoin miner. Do you know what year that was?
Actually, all right. Interesting you bring that up. 2013, I think Bitcoin was valued at like 680. It was ridiculous. Okay, so here was the plan. And now it's no longer feasible, so I may as well let the plan out. So you take a regular freezer, right? And you put a PID on it to control the temperature, and you put all of your miners in there, and you bring that bastard down to the temperature that the miners operate best at. So it's air cooled. We were going to do a non-conductive, like dielectric fluid, whatever. That was going to be later on down the line. And then you hook it up to solar. And just with a basic connection, you can have that bastard out anywhere. And it's self-cooling, it is self-generating, and as long as it covers the cost of the equipment eventually, then you start earning a profit. But, we were younger, I thought $680 per token was
Insane.
absurd.
Which is,
Yeah, oh
it
God.
is. I mean, it was crazy. I'm looking at the chart from 2013, the summer of 2013. It was trading at 122, $94, 122, and then it made the run in the fall, the fall of that year. So it went, and by December it was trading at $600. So you're thinking December of 13 is when you
Yeah, that's
guys were
about
getting
right.
interested in that because it made the run from 90 to 600, and it was so crazy. Like, who's gonna buy this shit at $600 a token?
Well, seriously, and it can't last, right? I
No,
mean, we'd
this
been
can't
through
be
the
real.
bubble, right? Everyone was still twitchy about real estate and artificially inflated prices and all that. I'm like, really, like consider the cost of all of that hardware to put into something that's just going to tank at some point, and then you've got some way to store your steak for free. It was
Oh, everybody was using GPUs too. We were all using gaming GPUs
right.
before they had Antminers and before they had ASIC machines. It was all on fucking Counter-Strike cards.
God, I love it. Hey, and we're getting back into that now. I mean,
So
we're getting back into that now
you took a
in
big
terms
gap.
of
Oh, for the AI, for
yeah,
the AI
for
GPUs.
DPN. Mm-hmm.
So you took a break from after that big run in where Bitcoin went to 800, and you didn't come back for 3 years, and then we had the massive run where it went from 900 to what was it, 14,000, 16,000 in 18. That was the, or 17.
Jesus
That was the big
Christ.
run. So me and my boss had some Bitcoin on Coinbase of that during that run, and I remember that it went to 14,000, and it took us, we had account limits on Coinbase. It took me 2 months to sell all the Bitcoin that he had.
Just
And then every day
sweating
I had a
blood that
timer
it's going
set.
to tank.
I think the maximum amount on Coinbase that you could sell in a day was $1,000. Like, so I was selling
Really?
$1,000 worth of Bitcoin every day for 46 days. And we thought that was the most money we were ever going to
And
see.
oh God, I hate that feeling. There's got to be some Dutch feeling, a word for that feeling where you miss out on just insanely, unthinkably high gains or yield. I mean, it's smart. You can't be mad at money in the pocket, but my God, what are we at right now? 64 or something,
Yeah,
or more?
64. 64 with a couple of round trips in there.
Oh, God's sakes.
So anyway, that was our ancient history together of our how we got into it, our intros. Let's go talk about. I think we should probably talk about AIOZ first before we talk about consensus, and I can ask you how the consensus stuff. Darien went to consensus. We've been on the AIOZ Discord, which I already have mentioned the link to it, and I also on the YouTube recording I have an image that has the link to the Discord. We are doing 15 transcripts from consensus that are either AI, DPIN, uh, or just general overarching crypto related, and we're publishing each of those every other day for a month and talking about them. So there's a little bit of educational value to that if any of you are interested in what happened at consensus. And we handpicked what we thought were the best 15 talks out of 275 or 350 or whatever, however many panels that there were, and we talk about each one of them. And it's so hopefully, and they're not going away. We're not going to delete the channels. We're just going to leave those channels open. So if you ever want to jump on the Discord and read about consensus, we will talk about that a little bit today. But first of all, we should probably do like a little intro to AIOZ and where they are, what steps they've taken so far, and what you think the big vision is going to be for them.
Okay. Well, okay. All right. So first, I all right, so I'm going to be a little roundabout on this because my path to discovering all this AIOZ stuff was roundabout. Like, I got to preface by saying that, like, over the last year, I've been really curious about how people learn, how I learn, because I was never taught what proper learning was in school. It was rote memorization. And looking into it, now I'm discovering the higher level brain functions of taking an idea and exploring it in a creative, personal way that lends itself to an eventual creation of a larger picture that this little piece of information fits into, so it works dynamically with all the other little pieces of information together like a machine. And so, having said that, I got into looking into AIOZ just with the idea that it was a uh, data storage, media streaming, AI training, like, provider, a service. But then looking into it, dude, God, I wish you could see these notes. The more I looked into it, it was just a mess. Like, well, how does this work? Writing down questions and highlighting them. I just had highlighted questions everywhere. And I just went through and started like looking into each of these questions, writing notes down below them. And then eventually a larger picture, the framework, the structure of it, the strategy started to show up, and it blew me away. AIOZ, with their data storage, decentralized data storage, and their streaming and their AI training, is just the to market service. What underlays it is, well, I'll just tell you. Okay, all right. So first, I got to start like looking at the most fundamental aspects of what makes them go. I had to start with Cosmos. And I know people chuckle about Cosmos, and I just kind of played along with it. I was like, yeah, well, yeah, it's just some blockchain. But
Yeah, it's
apparently not.
another L1 that's super cheap to run on, and it's like you take your pick of it's Solana or it's Avalanche or what's the one
Right.
everybody hates? Cardano, the one with the
Terra.
nerdy guy. Terra, don't talk about Terra. Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
It's a fucking trigger warning.
Sorry. Jesus. So that all that's tied to Cosmos. But when I looked into it, they made Cosmos not to be a singular chain. Okay. They made it to be a blockchain ecosystem, which means that these motherfuckers, hold on, let me get to this. They created what's called the inter-blockchain communication protocol, that if other blockchains are built on this, we'll talk about the consensus mechanism that they use, but any other blockchain that's built with this inter-blockchain communication protocol in the code is thus automatically able to share fucking data between each other.
Without an external oracle
Yes.
that you have to
Without a
pay and beg to
bridge.
use.
Exactly. It's built into the goddamn system. And the reason that they did this was they realized that each blockchain has its own set of virtues, its own specialization, that taken on its own is just kind of like, yeah, well, cool. You know, try eating soup with a hammer. But when you need that hammer, this protocol will give you the ability to just use that hammer function in whatever application that you have, whether it be a security protocol or like I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll talk about ETH bridging here in just a bit because that's fucking wild. But so we have Cosmos.
So
It's
it's
built to be an
natural.
ecosystem.
AIOZ was the natural, or Cosmos was the natural home for AIOZ.
Yes.
You like the choice that they made to start the AIOZ network as a Cosmos shard or whatever the fuck they call it.
They call them zones. Any
Okay.
blockchain that gets the ability to communicate with the wider Cosmos ecosystem is called a zone, and Cosmos does have its own, blockchain. I think they call it the hub or something, whatever.
Like their
But
execution layer, or their, I guess it would be their, what did ETH, when we were doing the ETH thing and we were staking it on the beacon chain. So like the Cosmos beacon chain.
Exactly.
So,
just a place to start.
One of my friends that's on the server with us was talking about the portability of AIOZ the other day, and they were another thing for us to laugh about, how we make fun of all these other L1s that are not ETH, because we're all ETH maxis, obviously. Most of us are, at least. AIOZ sponsored a hackathon on Cardano a couple days ago, and there's a YouTube video about it. And I mentioned it to our friend here on this server, and he said that's kind of one of the beautiful, elegant things about AIOZ is it's portable and it's containerized. Like we talked about our Google Cloud account that we were running together with it, and having to figure out how containers work. It could be, you could take AIOZ to Cardano and run an AIOZ service on Cardano if Cardano was, incentivizing it for some reason.
Exactly.
Or if they wanted it to be there for some certain aspect. And then also the obvious thing is that Ermin built AIOZ to be EVM compatible. So it's a native ETH app, DApp.
Right. And not just that either, but like with the ETH virtual machine, one of its greatest contributions, God bless them, is smart contracts, right? So if you want to utilize that, you have to be able to communicate, to share data in between the ETH network and your own blockchain. So what they're using is called the gravity bridge between Cosmos and ETH, so that they can now utilize smart contracts as a feature of that blockchain, because that's the thing that they find useful. But ETH is, slow in comparison with these other blockchains. So let me talk. Okay, here's the other thing. The other, what is it? Tendermint. The Tendermint consensus engine is a consensus engine that works off of, the Byzantine fault tolerance consensus, which is a 2/3 majority instead of 51%, which makes it more secure, at least in that aspect.
Harder to undertake a 51% attack.
Right, you got to get 2/3, which means that even if you had a malicious organized attack, that 2/3 is going to provide more security. So Cosmos is built off of the Tendermint consensus protocol as well. And anybody else that creates a Tendermint consensus built blockchain is automatically able to communicate with all other blockchains naturally that use Tendermint. Now, what makes this amazing is that if you have a very intensive job that you don't want to lag down the capabilities of one or two or three blockchains, this gives you the ability to shard your workload across as many blockchains as you want and have them processed piecemeal and brought back together so that you don't jack gas prices up. That's the incredible nature of this.
Spread the load across different chains.
Parallel fucking processing over blockchains.
Which already, okay. Sorry, but let me get this thought out. The parallel processing concept, is it for the inference protocol part of the AI, or for the training part where you need multiple cores? That's why GPUs are good for this.
Definitely the training.
For the training aspect of AI, for creation of the model, for showing the model the picture of the dog versus the picture of the cat 7 million times. The reason that GPUs are good chips for this process is because they have multiple cores inside of each GPU, and they can parallel process. So that we just described in the Cosmos ecosystem it's a blockchain concept that sounds like a GPU concept with parallel processing. A lot slower, and a lot littler
for now.
But that already kind of has, if AIOZ default is the AWS of crypto, then Cosmos is the GPU multi-core parallel processing connection. But anyway, that's for way down the line. We can make up some sort of fucking infographic about that later on, and
that's real good though.
I just came up with it just now. Is it just that the way you were describing it? It reminded me of the GPU multiple core concept.
Yeah, dude.
So let's back up for a second and let's go back to the beginning, like where AIOZ is. You laid the groundwork that they launched on the Cosmos network. That's where the AIOZ actual chain
Well,
is. And so, like,
I think AIOZ has its own chain, but it's in the ecosystem, if that makes sense.
yeah, if you go to the AIOZ network blockchain explorer on the website, it takes you to to a Cosmos shard or whatever you called it instance. So all
Zone.
the staking and the delegation of the AIOZ token all takes place on Cosmos. There is also an ERC20 version of AIOZ, which is on, you can trade on Uniswap, and you can also, obviously it's on Binance and Coinbase and all that. And that's the ETH version of it, I think. In order to get to stake AIOZ, you have to bridge it to the Cosmos side, and
Wrap
or
it.
to do any wrap it, or I think the native anyway. So right now you've just laid the groundwork for how Ehrman decided to go with the Cosmos network. Now, once he chose the network, and then he started rolling out products. The first product that they rolled out, like consumer-facing product, was storage. And that was in December of 23, so it was 8 months ago. So I'm running a node right now on one of my office computers, and it's a very simple process. I don't think that you've done that yet, Darien. We're just to try to play
Not
with
yet.
it. But you download a super light node program. You tell the program how much of your hard drive space you want to offer to the AIOZ network. You then connect and start storing and delivering packets, and you start accruing AIOZ rewards. You're being paid in AIOZ for your storage capability. Now, this is not a new idea. This has been done several times. Back in the shitcoin ICO cycle of 2017, I owned some Gollum, and so the first time I still own it. I mentioned it on another call that I have some Gollum on a dust somewhere that might be worth some money someday. But this storage concept, the decentralized storage idea has been done before, and it's not a new idea, but it was the place where Ehrman had to start AIOZ.
Right.
Because what do you need first before you start talking about AI? You need massive storage, correct?
Absolutely. And not just the. Oh, and by the way, test. Did I just drop off? Okay.
No,
All right.
sorry, I was drinking my shake.
Oh yeah, no worries. So not just having the data, but also in a community of people that have the greatest chance at developing and supporting and refining personal information sovereignty as well. So all of this is extremely strategic. The more I looked into this, the more brilliant it became that what Ehrman and his team are doing is setting themselves up in the best possible position to be able to scale and adopt new technologies and new social motivations to utilize all of this as effortlessly and as smoothly and as quickly as possible. Like all of this almost seems like the boring foundational steps, the preparation.
Actual DePIN itself.
Exactly.
The physical infrastructure.
Jesus. And it has to be done. It may not be sparkly, but after this is all set up, which seems like it's getting there pretty damn good, then when things start popping off, you don't have to build the goddamn infrastructure anymore.
You
You're
already
ready.
own it.
You
Well,
exactly.
you don't own it. The people actually own it that are running it. But the whole point is that that they don't own it, right? It's decentralized is in the name of DePIN. So we've got the storage side already up and running, functioning. It's $17 a terabyte a month. It's an operating business, and it's throwing off cash flow. In comparison, Google Cloud is pay as you go, but like Google Storage is, I think it's what is it, $7 or $8 if you pay for a year per terabyte per month. So it's it's probably $10 a month more than Google storage would be, just off the cuff. So it's
Right.
not that much more expensive. But what you do when you use the AIOZ network for storage is you don't give away your intellectual property to those fucking assholes in San Francisco. I mean, for me, I told you the other day, it's worth it for me to pay an extra $7 a month to actually own my data, and not have
Absolutely.
them be able to seize it or ban me or have a search warrant served by the fucking FBI at Google headquarters, and they're like, oh yeah, here's his account. This is
Exactly.
every document he's ever interacted with since
Dude.
2004.
And not Jesus Christ. And not just that. Not just that either. It's, back in the day when all this the data hoarding and the scraping and the recording, back when that was like really coming into public light, I was talking to people about it, and maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but so many people were saying, why should I care? I've got nothing to hide. And I wish I had thought to say, what about your social security number? What about your bank account, your credit card information? Uh, the thing that I was arguing with them is, you may not have anything to hide that you think, which you do, but by allowing this to go on, you're acting as a refinement method for these companies, so that when it really does become a big deal, they're already going to be, they've sharpened their knives nicely to go to war against us. And so it's the same sort of thing with this. This is the countermeasure to that. So by interacting with this whole process, we are incentivizing Ehrman, his crew, the DEPIN guys, decentralization, to do the work that we don't have the time to do or the expertise. I'm glad Ehrman, his mind, dude. Okay, if society collapsed, right, and we were into factions fighting over resources and survival, I would want Ehrman and his team at the round table for war planning, because from what I'm seeing here, this is so long game stuff that I end up having to just like stand up so quickly that the chair shoots across the room and I have to go pace around and curse. Like, it's that sort of stuff.
They don't
So
have a roadmap, okay, published on the front end of the website.
no,
I can only imagine that the roadmap is on a whiteboard in his office, because
exactly.
you don't. So let's bring the audience back into this and explain the next step. So after storage, then the next thing that AIOZ delivered was the
Streaming.
IPFS, right? The interplanetary file system. So a place to store images that's immutable, like for NFTs, which is a big
Right.
deal because
Okay.
a lot of people are hosting NFT images on centralized exchanges or centralized servers, and they are changeable or hackable or bannable, or you don't actually own it. So AIOZ wanted to launch a competitor to IPFS. I don't know how much it's been used, but they launched that in conjunction with the streaming concept. So if you want to say that storage is the AWS side, that's who they're competing against. Oh, and also they made the AWS to AIOZ conversion or transfer as seamless as possible. So like the team created the AIOZ storage function to look just like the AWS one does. So when you decide to transfer all your data over, it's very seamless and native. They're trying to siphon off AWS business, which makes sense.
Good
Now,
onboarding.
next step after that is they're going to go after YouTube. So tell me about streaming transcoding.
Actually, hold on. So this foundational stuff that I got to was a rabbit hole that took me farther than I expected. I got to the point of looking into how it is that the data itself is distributed. And I just want to comment on that before I move off this page. So if you take a file and you break it apart into many number of pieces, and then you encrypt it, and then you distribute those pieces to various nodes. This gives you, one, the security of it. Nobody knows what's being stored. Nobody has the ability to bring them all back together without, unless it's the use of the owner of that information. And if, let's say, a series of nodes go down on the East Coast due to some weather event, the record of where all of these little shards of data are being stored is looked at. The node goes down. All right, what data shards was it storing? It gets that information, finds out what other nodes have those data shards, and then redistributes among the existing nodes that are out there. So this whole sharding thing is such data robustness. I mean, you can't destroy it. It's available anywhere, even if an entire country goes down, you're still going to have access to this data. I think that's brilliant.
We had this conversation about ETH 3 or 4 years ago when we were setting up our first node, and we said even if one copy of the entire, if before you could do like a light download and not download the entire chain history, if one copy on a satellite of one ETH node stays up, then you have the entire historical backlog, the history of all of ETH for all times since the Genesis block, and only one has to survive. So
dude, that's robustness.
That kind of a concept of immutability, where I like how it has like an auto roll backup system.
Indeed,
for the sharding.
Isn't that brilliant?
That's pretty slick.
And since this is interoperatable, man, I've been typing that so many times it's become nonsense to me.
How do I say this word?
Since this is existing on as many blockchains that you can communicate with, even if an entire chain goes down, the data is secure. I mean, it almost seems genetic to me, like ensuring the family line continues. These are the sorts of things that just, like, I look at it and it dawns on me what that means. And then I have to get up and pace around and curse for a little bit. It's setting up the ability to do the big projects when the big projects come up. But setting this up is a huge project because we absolutely need that kind of robustness to avoid, any of this operation from failing in the event of backlash or natural disasters.
What does streaming needs storage first, right? So in order to go after YouTube or become the decentralized version of YouTube, you have to have massive storage capabilities.
Right.
That's already been solved. We have 188,000 nodes, AIOZ nodes running around the globe. That we have the storage available. We have the capacity to take on data streaming. Video streaming. The second thing that you need, other than storage for streaming, is transcoding. So the update, it's all in on the server under Twitter. You can go and look and see the news updates that they've released. The most recent version of the AIOZ node, which I upgraded to last week, has a new section that you can start delivering. It's not packets, but I call them packets. You can start delivering to, which is called transcoding. So every video that gets updated or uploaded to either to YouTube or to AIOZ, it comes in different formats and has to be delivered in different formats. And that concept is called transcoding. That is going to be another CPU sharing service that you can provide on the node that will allow you to, get AIOZ rewards from putting some of your CPU power into the decentralized transcoding concept.
Right.
Did you go down any of that rabbit hole of how that connects into the next step, which is AI, or is that just kind of a standalone
No.
service?
No, not yet, man. Not yet. Uh, this is going to be a incredibly deep dive. I made it. Hold on. I've been jumping back and forth, like I say, against all these questions. Let me see here. What was the last part here? Yeah, no, I I started getting into the robust logging systems for transactions and content streaming and proof of storage. That's where I left off, and
So
incentive
that
logging.
that was under the streaming section then. That
Yeah,
was
well,
you had broken into the next
yeah,
product, which was stream.
exactly.
So let's see how much Web3 or how much crypto video streaming demand it has. I can imagine that it would have massive demand because
Oh
probably even
yeah,
more than storage, because you have a lot of storage options, but you don't have a lot of decentralized video hosting options. So they're hitting a market that's needed. Now, what are the reasons that somebody would go to decentralized video streaming?
oh
For me, it's
my,
banning. It's shadow banning. Twitch and YouTube
yes,
have humongously detailed and just invasive privacy EULA agreements that you sign that say you cannot say certain things, you cannot do certain things, you cannot use certain types of sound in the background. And then if you get banned from Twitch or you get banned from YouTube, the appeals process is months. And
really,
you have sometimes you never get your account back. And that so they own all your stuff, and every video you ever uploaded, you don't actually own it yourself, and they control it, and they can take it down. So for the censorship side, I think that's probably the thing I'm most excited about for the AIOZ streaming platform is that it becomes censorless. You can't be banned
indeed,
from this.
indeed. Well, that is certainly something, and I'm sure they're looking into this about you know testing its robustness, getting the nodes as numerous as possible. But if you start tapping into large YouTube personalities and they say, hey, I am migrating over to this other platform, they get to bring all of their followers, millions of followers, and saying, if you want to help us out, me and my other YouTube brethren, start yourself a node and let's get this up and running so that we don't have to be under the thumb of some oppressive corporation. I mean, the spin almost writes
Sells
itself.
itself. Yeah, it has
Indeed.
its own sales department. Like your options are be banned by YouTube or come here.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe, and you know what? Good God, it just struck me. What if the greatest threat to monopolization is the very fact of its monopolization, where you take away all other pathways? Eventually, you're going to push people to the limit where they start cutting through the brush and saying, here, I've created this for you. Come and join me. They're sowing their own demise because what other
Yes,
option have they given us?
that's like the utilities here. They all
Oh God,
monopolies end in fire and ash. The
literally. Oh my God,
especially in
dude, that needs
California.
to be a bumper sticker. Oh my God, that needs to be a T-shirt. If anybody's listening, please make that T-shirt and put it up.
For the user experience, I think on YouTube it's become unbearable because of the ad sales. So
Yeah.
you cannot watch YouTube anymore. Like it's so obnoxious. So that
Oh,
if you just made it to where it was a paid service, or the person that was hosting the videos was paying a hosting fee that covered the costs, and you wouldn't have to
there we
have to shove a bunch
go,
of ads down the throat of the viewers. I think that
dude.
that's
Indeed.
another thing that draws people over to
And
decentralized video streaming.
and let's talk about algorithms because I love algorithms because they take effort away from my biological form, right? We and I think that there was a talk that I went to in consensus about this that mentioned that algorithms in of themselves aren't particularly harmful. They're a tool. If we owned our own algorithms, let's say like a Linux flavor, you choose whatever flavor you want to match your user style and your personality. You can create your own algorithm to sort through all of this content to actually give you what you want, and not like you watch one video on orangutans and suddenly you're just inundated. It's like, I appreciate that, but I'm not, you have to wait like 5 days of heavy use for them to start dropping off. I want to make my own algorithm, and somebody could create an algorithm that does a really, really good job, decentralized, local, it's on your computer. You'd have to, how would that work? How would you compensate
Yeah,
the algorithms?
the TikTok and the YouTube algorithms are a black box for the user.
Yeah,
We
Jesus.
don't have any control over it. And once we click on one video of the orangutan driving a truck, we are forever going to have monkey videos shoved down our throats, and you have to basically start a new account to be able to
Right, and
on a new IP on a damn VPN, so they know it's not the same household. So
oh my God, that's why. Do you imagine you sign on to a VPN? IP address has been used by thousands of people. It's like, oh my God, why
the
are all
algorithm
these?
doesn't know what to do with it.
Oh my God, exactly. Why am I getting all of these weird true crime suggestions all of a sudden?
I don't want this podcast. Hey, we went ahead and put the podcast app on your phone for you, and we've already downloaded all of those
Jesus.
irritating ones of that girl that talks really quiet, that talks about all the true crime stuff. Okay, so after streaming, then the next step for AIOZ is AI compute. So
Jesus.
let's go talk about how hard it is to get GPU, either to get GPUs bought today, or to rent GPU space, or to rent GPU as a service. And what is the product market fit for decentralized GPU sharing? Is there is it basically, is it economically makes sense because you physically can't get any GPU space unless you're a big company right now to be able to train models, or where are we
That,
right now?
from what I understand, from what I'm gathering, the the GPU shortage is so severe that you need to be a large company making large purchases to be able to lock down that kind of hardware. And if you get it, then you get to monopolize, you know, renting that processing power out to other people. And I believe, I mean, let's say I were a huge company and I had that kind of GPU. I would leverage the hell out of it in terms of gaining access to proprietary data of those who are training large language models. I would put in some sort of subcontract saying that when your model goes live, we get first dibs, or maybe we can peek in
Mm-hmm.
on your weights.
The
I mean,
quid pro
they
quo of business.
you scratch my back, you get preferential treatment. It's, since the beginning of time, and it is continuing right now. So simply having the ability to, I think that in-house personal model AI models are the way of the future, where a person who is a in-house chef, right, wants an AI model that specializes simply in various cooking methods so that they can cook together. There's, no huge market for that right now for somebody like Microsoft to give that kind of compute time to for themselves so that they can put out a model. It needs to be in the hands of the individual specialized users. But if you're training something small, I could see maybe going underneath the radar. If you just use like Google Cloud Compute, probably wouldn't cost all that much. But you start getting into anything, especially industrial grade stuff in terms for financial markets, healthcare, government, military, then I think that you're going to start running into trouble with the quid pro quo.
Mm-hmm.
So having this option of something else that you get to control the process completely and anonymously, I think is going to attract not just small fry, but big guys as well.
So the concept of sharing GPU compute is exciting to me and you from what we've talked about in the last few weeks from your consensus talks, because there seems to be a lot of unused GPU compute floating around in the world. Idle,
Yeah,
doing nothing. But meanwhile,
right.
companies are stabbing each other in the back and fighting to the death basically when you look at
Oh
the stock
God,
price
espionage. You know it, man. There's going to be a Netflix special about this in another 20 years.
over just trying to get H1000 or whatever the new NVIDIA GPU compute
Yeah,
option is for industrial grade
which
stuff.
they have, from what I understand, damn near a monopoly. I mean, they're so far ahead of everyone else from what I'm hearing that they are the godfathers of this. You go to them and kiss their ring for it.
The data center talk that you talked about on Consensus said that they have to upgrade GPU data center server racks like every year.
Right.
So because the GPUs have to be cutting edge or they can't rent them out. People aren't interested in
Right.
last year's model. So you have a heap of containers next door to
Oh,
the
dude.
data center in in Cupertino that's full of server rack GPUs that are not plugged into anything. That could be being used to share. That's not what AIOZ is going to do. That's another business idea that we go buy 2-year-old GPUs and sell the compute at a discount. What AIOZ is going to do is they are going to empower or allow. Empower is such a trendy word. I don't even want to say it. They want to allow people who are running the AIOZ node to be able to siphon off part of their GPU processing on their home computer and feed that into a GPU compute pool that somebody can pay to use.
Indeed.
It's going to be slower. Jesus Christ. Amazon, computer, stop talking. Bezos again. So,
Just reminding you, it's the panopticon, bro. Constant surveillance.
hey, I just had an idea. You know all those Jeff Bezos gets an email from my Alexa device. What about all those GPUs we have stored in the storage bin in Morgan Hill that
God.
nobody's using?
And he grows another vein to start pulsing with his evil plans. Yeah, great.
So we know it's not going to be as fast. We know it's not going to be as efficient as a single rack server at a data center in Cupertino with a 20 gig connection. We know that it's not going to deliver a response as fast as GPT does or as Copilot does, but it's another option for somebody who can't afford to buy $50,000 or $75,000 a day worth of GPU compute from Amazon or whatever
And not
data
just
center.
that. And not just that, though, we have to keep in mind the long game of this. Everything that they're doing right now, like you said, is uncharted territory. They are creating the manuals of the sort of protocols that we are going to be utilizing in the future. Just like you mentioned the GPU rack upgrades going from Jesus, what did he say? Every 6 months they had to upgrade them to every year, and now they say simply with the it was a diagnostic energy feedback mechanism for every single GPU, utilizing that in order to get as much performance out of every single unit at the same time that they're able to increase the efficiency so much that now they're looking at several years before they have to kick over to the next, which makes the older GPUs more on par with the heavy hitters nowadays. So what Ehrman, his team, and the others in the decentralized and DePIN ecosystem are doing is experimenting with as many different ways of making this work as possible. After we get this all laid out and we get a working prototype, a proof of concept that actually delivers, then growing the decentralized dev and maker community, we can start optimizing it in an open source fashion, which then raises up the entire ship. We have to keep in mind the long game of this, what we're actually doing.
The long game being ownership of all of your intellectual property.
Yes. And having alternatives that you control completely as well.
Yes.
Like that's what I'm really looking forward to. That puts us, like, especially with AI right now. I heard somebody mention, okay, it was in one of the consensus talks at the very end. They said, in one sentence, tell me what your why you think that AI is the greatest thing. And one guy said, because AI gives me superpowers and I like having superpowers. And another person had mentioned that if you take the kind of abilities and specializations and capabilities that AI has, especially in like multiple very specialized agent swarm form for an individual, that would turn every individual on the planet into the equivalent of a CEO with 100 highly paid, highly educated specialists at their beck and call. Imagine giving this is a positive feedback loop. Imagine giving that kind of power to the creative minds that don't know how to do all this stuff, but you don't need to because the AIs do. Your in-house AIs that aren't black box services. You trained them. You brought them up. They're
Custom
really
models.
good at custom fucking models. Then we have an explosion of innovation. Skill is no longer a boundary, as another person in consensus put it. Skill is no longer a boundary. You can enter in simply with human creativity. That's what I'm waiting for. And we're making the goddamn rail systems to transport and utilize these innovative, fucking revolutionary ideas.
I think that
I'm getting pumped up.
I'm jacked. I think that that AIOZ is going to have a use case and they need to exist. They're never going to be as fast as Google. They're never going to be as clean and as easy as Google, but they are going to be accessible and they are going to be decentralized, and people do not there are especially people in our world, in our crypto world, the curve joke, we will die on this decentralized hill. This is the most important thing to us. So owning our own data, intellectual property, models, storage, videos, images, compute,
and processing. Yeah.
all of those things are top priority above all else for us as a group. And I think that the AIOZ vision gives us that. So wrap up. Sorry, I don't have any idea how long it's been. This has been a long week. We alluded to all of our consensus stuff. It's all on the Discord. Come to Discord, read the consensus transcripts. Some of them are 15, 18-minute reads. Some of them are shorter than that. But it's definitely going to get you some stuff that you've never seen before and some new ideas. A lot of them are sales pitches, but you can still glean the important information from the sales pitches. And then each one of them, me and Darien have talked about. Also, Darien is going to write a article about AIOZ for next month, for August of 24. And I have some threads going right now. So for you llamas out there, just ask me on Discord, on the Llamas Discord, to insert you into the AIOZ lounge, and you will then be informed of any time that I have new threads going out. New thread, paid thread spots. And I've got just doing Joseph this month, and then I'm going to do 2 at the beginning of next month. And I'm going to take everybody. I've got about 15 people that would like to write Twitter threads for AIOZ, and I'll just do it. Everybody will get a turn. Whether you have 200 followers or 2,000 followers, you can still write me a thread that will reach different people. So it's an exciting spot that we're in. We have a lot going on with the llamas back-end stuff themselves that Dina and Alex are working on, and Hawthorne and Panda. But I'm focusing on keeping some badges rolling in and keeping some income streams happening for llamas who want to go out and do some micro, small social stuff like these threads. You don't have to be a coder to go talk about AIOZ for me.
And do
Anything
you
else
mind?
that you wanted to
Yeah,
just wrap up with, Darien?
actually, yeah, at least one thing here. So, to what Cogsy was just talking about, what I've learned is that every individual has a brain that operates in a particular way that allows the individual to see the world in a very specific light. And that gives each individual kind of a razor thin view into things that the rest of us likely would overlook or not see entirely. So if you have an opportunity, you, the independent listeners, if you have an opportunity to give your view of these things to these communities, I really request that you think about doing that, because just like the question about what got you into crypto, the Cogsy led with two completely different answers on the same subject. Your answer is key to giving the insight on a topic that other people don't have the time, they didn't have the interest, they didn't have the upbringing to be able to think about. So your voice is absolutely crucial to us. I think I'll leave it with that.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for listening. I'll get this posted to YouTube and throw some chapters in and talk to you guys. I've got a call tomorrow on Friday with another llama call. And thank you. Thanks, Darien. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, you too, Cogsy. Damn good hearing you, dude.